As we said, it's going to be today's workforce afternoon. This is the workforce afternoon. So Doyle gave us some really good information about the general state of things and lots of things about the economy and the outlook and jobs and labor market information. But how many of you know Lori Knight? Anybody know Lori Knight? Raise your hand if you know Lori Knight. I see a couple of people who know Lori Knight. Well, you're in for a real treat because she's a terrific resource that you're going to want to think about as you're going forward with your career development plans at your school and your school district. We've gotten lots of reports about Lori and her work with our schools and school districts about the kinds of information that she offers that's really meaningful and really helps students and parents and counselors and educators know about what they should be doing in terms of making workforce decisions. So it's my pleasure to bring up Lori Knight, who's a member who works with the Texas Workforce Commission. Her topic is a very specific one. We're getting closer and closer down to where you need to be, and that's how to find your local labor market and career information. And here's a little bit about Lori. Prior to working for the Texas Workforce Commission, Lori Knight was an educator, advisor, and student advocate on a collegiate level for about 8 years. Lori is passionate about education in Texas, and she decided to take the job with the TWC in the hopes of being able to make a bigger impact on students statewide. So with that, please help me welcome Lori Knight.
If anyone here has not received a folder that looks like this, please raise your hand. My colleague Jane here is going to walk around and make sure everybody's got one. Before I get started, is there a John Holm in the audience? John? Where is he? Hey there. Nice to meet you. You sent me an email earlier this week, and I'd like to talk to you about it afterwards, so please see me after. Okay, with that said, hello everybody. How are you guys doing today? Great. Okay, so what Jane is passing around, I'm kind of biding some time here, but what she's passing around are some resources that we're going to be looking at together. And we're just going to go through this piece by piece. I'm going to spread some good juju on here, so hopefully I won't have the kinds of technical issues that Doyle is having. But when you open your folder, first thing you're going to see, hopefully, is a colored fish. Goes along with the theme of the presentation. But the fish is really for me to collect. So if you would not mind writing your name and letting me know what school and ISD and region you come from. And the reason why we're collecting that information is because my leadership, my commissioners and directors would like to see our office reach out to as many ISDs as we can, and the ultimate goal is that hopefully we can find a way to reach out to every ISD every year. So when I know that I have a group coming from multiple ISDs, I like to collect this information just so I can let them know how many ISDs we touched at one go. So that information is for me. Some of the other information you're going to see in there, some one-page items. We're going to cover all that together, and then you're going to see a lot of stuff that looks like this. These are our marketing tools, and these will be provided to you if you choose to order any kind of counselor packets or tell your colleagues to order counselor packets, but we wanted to make sure that you each had one with you before you left today. So those are some of the resources that we have available to us. All right. Some of the key points I wanted to cover today, I know that Doyle talked about labor market information. I also like to make sure that I talk to specifically educators, counselors, and administrators. TPIER data, and we're going to cover it just on a state level because I know people are coming from ISDs and regions all over Texas. So I do want to look at TPIER data as far as college enrollment after high school graduation, but I also want to look at some of the information from the Higher Education Coordinating Board. Can you, by show of hands, can anyone here let me know if you've already looked at the 2015 Higher Education Coordinating Board's Almanac, Education Almanac? Okay, it's a wealth of information. It's a wonderful resource. We are partnering with the co-board, so I'm glad to share this information with you today. specifically because I want you guys to see the data of what is happening to your students when they leave your institutions. So what their world is like at the post-secondary level. So we're going to cover some of that. And then again, briefly, some of the regional labor market information. But more importantly, we're going to talk about how you connect that to counseling opportunities and reviewing the resources that we have available for you in a demo so that you can figure out how to get your hands on the information as well. So we'll start with TPIER data for the state. We're looking here at statewide high school graduates who enrolled in higher education after graduating from high school. So I went back as far as 2008, 2009. There's 3 years on here. If you look at the far right-hand side, you'll see the total number of graduates in the state of Texas for each year. The numbers that are happening in the middle, furthest to the left is the year of graduation, and then you have students who enrolled in Texas public universities, so 4-year institutions. In most cases, you're looking at roughly around 20% of each graduating class. Those students who enrolled in public 2-year institutions, so community colleges, you're looking at, on the high end, about 33%. Okay? But then we have another column, students not located in Texas public higher education. So these are students who, one, do not enroll in post-secondary education of any kind, students who may enroll in private institutions in state, or students who enroll in any institution out of state. So obviously that's a much larger number. And there's several reasons why I wanted us to look at that today. One, I know that it's not an exact number because we don't know exactly how many students are enrolling in private universities or out of state, but it leads me to believe that there are at least a few students who are not going into post-secondary education of any kind, and I want to focus on that particular audience. So this information, this is data taken from the post-secondary, the Higher Education Coordinating Board's Post-Secondary Education Almanac. So back in 2003, I believe it is, yes, 2003, the co-board identified an 8th grade cohort. Some of these numbers are hard to see, but keep in mind this presentation is going to be provided to you so that you can have it. But we're just going to go through it real quick. So they identified an 8th grade cohort, and what they wanted to do was follow these 8th graders, not just to high school graduation, but beyond that. And they found that of that 8th grade cohort, of 100 kids who started together in the 8th grade, 69 of those kids graduated from high school. Okay. Of the 69 that graduated, 53 enrolled in college. Okay. And of those 53 who enrolled in higher ed, 20 of them completed higher education with some sort of either certificate, 2-year degree, or a 4-year bachelor's degree. So of the 100, 20 would be successful, right? Okay, so that's some of the data that they've collected. They've also collected information from IPEDS, the Integrated Post-Secondary Education Data System. This is all data that's taken up by the U.S. Department of Education through the Institution of Education Services at the National Center for Education Statistics. That's a mouthful. But essentially what they discovered that they looked at 6-year graduation rates because unfortunately not all college students are making it through in 4 years, so they looked at 6 years to be fair. The state of Texas is showing that 6-year graduation rate for 4-year institutions are the students who successfully make it through those programs, roughly 52.1%. Bless you. Okay. Now, I wanted to also look at different education attainment levels. So this is looking at the population of Texas as a whole. So in the state of Texas, Texans who currently have some college education are 22.6% of our population. Okay. Of our population, those with an associate degree, 6.5%. Of those Texans who have a bachelor's degree in our population, we're looking at 18.3%. And I'm sorry, this is all collected by our census data. And then Texans with either graduates or some form of professional advanced degree, 9.3% of our population. Now, if we look at the state attainment of college degrees by level of income, it's no surprise. Those students who are coming out of households that are above poverty level are attaining higher levels of education at much higher rates than those coming out of households who live below poverty level. That's not a surprise, right? But if we're speaking about money, I want to talk about the cost of higher education, because everybody in this room knows it's not cheap, right? So I want you to just kind of talk to the people, sitting around you. If you had to make an estimate of what you think students are paying for higher education, I want you to think about 3 different levels. Public 2-year institutions, so community colleges. I want you to think of public 4-year institutions, so our universities. And then private 4-year colleges or universities. So talk to the folks around you, and if you were to estimate what students are paying for one semester of full tuition, what would that amount be? Okay, lots of great conversations happening, right? All right. Okay, guys, the data that I'm going to show you is also coming out of the Higher Education Coordinating Board's Education Almanac. Again, this is for 2015, so this is updated data. The Almanac, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but for those of you who haven't, it actually goes through every single institution in the state of Texas, and it provides data for students to look at. So they can find out success rates, they can look at retention rates, they can look at all kinds of information. One of the things that's collected statewide is the mean average of tuition. So the mean cost for average tuition for a public 2-year university at this point, roughly just over $1,800 per semester. So for a student who's going to a community college, they're looking at paying roughly over $1,800 for one semester. Okay? For 4-year institutions, jumps up to $7,402. So $7,400 for one semester. Okay. At a private institution, $25,174, again, for one semester. I like to share this information when I talk to students because they have no idea, in most cases, the cost of education or what they're about to invest in themselves when they do go to post-secondary, because that is something that we always talk about. We always encourage post-secondary education and training of some sort. But a lot of them don't have a good grasp on the actual cost. And I have to explain to them, this is the cost of tuition for one semester. This does not include what you're going to eat and where you're going to live. Right. Or books. Exactly. Okay? But not all college students who go to college are actually going to earn a degree. Unfortunately, that's a real and true statistic. However, many of them will be leaving those institutions with debt, whether or not they're leaving with a degree. And on average, what the data is showing is that 54.4% of the students who graduate, so the completers, 54% of them will have student loan debt. And on average, it's about $24,000. Of those who are non-completers, so those who do not graduate, 35% of them have debt, and their student loan debt average is $15,000. Okay. Now, the reason why I shared this data with you guys today is not to depress anybody, but it's because I want this to be the impetus of our conversation. It is critical that at this point we're talking to students about being much more pointed and focused and having a plan when they decide to enter post-secondary education because they need to do it, right? Doyle was just telling you earlier, and I read it in an article last week, 67% of the occupations that pay living wages are going to require post-secondary education or training of some sort. These students need to know that they're going to have to invest themselves in post-secondary education and training of some sort, okay? But that's what we're continually telling them, right? That college means success and lots of money. And to a certain extent, again, that's true because it's post-secondary education and that's a requirement. That's what employers are saying they want. But what they need to understand is that there are multiple pathways to success. Post-secondary education and training does not have to mean a 4-year college degree. It's really the occupation that they select that should predetermine the level of education that is required for them to actually get into the job. And so that's the kinds of conversations that I would have with my college students when I was talking to them. And that's, I think, the kinds of conversations that are most beneficial to students. So let's talk about helping them figure out which pathway is best for them. I do talk to students about the warm and fuzzy feeling of doing what you love and doing what you're passionate about. And I think that that's definitely something that we need to continue to promote. So allowing students to dream big, right? But helping them to know what are the real labor market potential and possibilities for them, depending on where they choose to live once they graduate. Because every region offers a different variety of occupations. And so understanding what the workforce realities are. So yes, your employer wants somebody with soft skills if you want to keep your job once you get your job. And then helping them ultimately to make the most informed decisions, right? So far we've done a great job of doing that, and I think we will continue to do that, but there's always room to be better. And I think that if you take a look at your map now, the way for us to help you guys be better is to help you understand how you can reach out to us. So if you take a look at the map real quick, in the state of Texas, there are 20 what are called ESCs, so your Education Service Center regions, right? On the workforce side, there are 28 what we call WDAs, Workforce Development Areas. If you flip the map over to the back, you'll see the names of those intertwined. But if you look at the actual map, the different colors will show you where those WDA regions break apart. So where they are, you can tell based on the color. The red dotted lines are your ESC regions. And the reason why I want you to see where those are is because sometimes you may have multiple workforce development areas within your region. So if you reach out to someone who is close to you in a workforce solution office, but they can't help you, there may be someone from a different WDA area that can. Okay? Now, I want to show you a little bit about how TEA and TWC, how we compare as far as how we whittle down our information. On the education side, the TEA, they take care of legislature, policy, and they dwindle it down within the ESC regions. Those dwindle down further into districts, and then it goes down further into the individual schools. For the TWC, us here in Austin at the mothership, we take care of legislation and policy, and we dwindle that down to our workforce development areas, and every area has a board. That board will take information, projects, initiatives, and they share them with the workforce boards and then individual workforce solution offices within your areas. Now, the reason why I wanted to point that out is because sometimes I travel all over the state and I meet people and they're like, oh, you guys were just here last week. But they're talking about the Workforce Solution Office, which is different from the Workforce Commission. So I just wanted to make that clear. And the reason why I want to make that clear is because I'm a resource at the Workforce Commission, but you also have resources at your Workforce Solution offices as well. And this will help you figure out which boards are in your area and how you can communicate with those boards, and the boards can help you find local help if I'm not available. So that's what the map is for. Now, some of the information that we can help you discover is finding out what job postings in your area, which occupations are posting the most, so that you know which occupations are in most demand. You can use one of our tools, and I'm going to show you how to do it in a second here, but you can find the top 25 job postings in an area. You can also see that they'll be ranked from the most posted down to the 25th, and on the right-hand side, it'll show you the total number of postings for each job. We use Help Wanted Analytics to do this, and it mines information from some of the biggest job databases that are out there. Indeed, Monster.com, Jobs.com, WorkInTexas.com as well. Okay. You can also find what we call projection overview for any specific WDA area. So if you have students who are in a CTE program and they want to know, if I get my cosmetology license, what are the opportunities for me to get a job in my area, you can find out which occupations are in most demand within our industries within any given WDA area. Okay. I'll show you how to find those too. So, for all the resources that I'm going to show you, pay attention to this the website down at the bottom, lmci.state.tx.us. That's going to help you get to any of our resources. But when you click it and you get to our main page, I'm going to show you what our main page looks like here. You're going to see two different sides of the screen. The one on the right is for teachers, counselors, and students. The one on the left is for labor market information. So I know you're probably going to want to lean towards the right, but I'm going to actually ask you to look at what's on the left-hand side, because what we want is labor market information. This is why it's important for you to understand which WDA your ISD or region falls in, because when you're looking up this data, you're going to need to know the WDA area. Tracer 2 is the very first resource up on top, and this is where you can find projection information. So jobs that will be hiring and posting positions all the way out to year 2022. We always go 10 years in advance. Next year we'll be posting 2014 to 2024. 2014 to 2024. Sorry about that. But you have several different tabs across the top, and you're always going to want to go to the future, because the future is where the projections are. You have several different options in how you look for it, and you're going to want to go to the WDA projections overview. Now, you can select any of the WDA areas you want. If you have a student who's interested in staying in the area where your school is, perfect. You can show them that WDA for where your region is. But this also can give students an opportunity to look outside of their region if they'd like. I'm just going to select Alamo because it's the first one. Download the publication. You always have the option. It'll ask you, do you want to open it, save it. But this essentially is what you're going to get, and you have one of these in your folder. This is a sample of what the projections overview will show you. It's a one-pager. Always on the top right-hand side, you're going to see that pinwheel of occupation families. Every single projection overview is going to have that. The difference will come in the percentages. So you can tell in your region the percentage of each occupation family that's represented within your area. And the top left has a picture of the map. It'll show you what counties are being considered for this specific data. The information that's in the middle on the left-hand side will show you the occupations who are adding the most individual jobs, and these are for new jobs. So this is where the growth comes. So this is any industry or occupation in which that is growing. It's going to be adding the most positions to be posted. On the right-hand side, same kind of thing, but this is taking into consideration jobs that will be replacements. So if we're replacing people who are retiring, or industries are growing really quickly, this is going to be replacement growth as well as new growth. The blue bar chart is particularly important for those, I think, in CTE programs or for administrators. These are going to show you the occupations growing the fastest that only need an associate degree. If you're looking to partner with your community colleges, you can make sure that they have programs of study and certifications and degrees in these specific occupations, and hopefully you can work with them to build your own CTE program so students can start in your institution and then transfer hopefully to a community college or collect dual credit and get credit for both institutions at the same time. The red bar chart is showing industry growth by percentage, so not by individual job postings, but by percentage of growth. That's what the red bar chart is. And at the very bottom, you'll see your region's wages compared to other regions within the state and then the nation as a whole. Again, these you can get for any region in the state of Texas. All right. Now I'm going to show you, let me go back there real quick, to show you how you can find the individual job postings. So again, we're going to be on the labor market side at the very bottom. Mind you, you're going to have this presentation with you, and there are some online tutorials right now that take you step by step through some of this, but feel free, my contact information will be at the end. Feel free to call me at any time if you just need somebody to take you step by step through how to do this, okay? But if you're looking for the number of job postings within an area, this is what our Help Wanted Online system is. And what is really cool about this tool is that you can actually search by ESC region. So you have several different tabs across the top. You can select an ESC. I'm going to go with Amarillo. Why not? And then on the right-hand side, you can click the year that you want to start the search and the year you want to end. Currently, we go as far back as January 2012. I'm going to do something more current. And it goes as far as currently July of 2015. And as we collect the numbers, we update. So I'm just going to say July to July for ESC Region 16. And it will show us the top 25 occupations that have been posted and the total number of postings for each individual job. Now, one thing I do want to say, it's still waiting. One thing I do want to say about the occupations that post here is you have to consider you're going to see a lot of retail, waitressing, food service, a lot of service industry kinds of positions. And I usually say you take those with a grain of salt because you understand that these are positions that are usually temporary, seasonal, or just have high turnaround. So you're normally going to see those posted on here, but if it doesn't want to print up, that's okay. On your overview, at the very back, this is what one of those 25 lists of jobs will look like. So you have occupation titles. It even gives you the occupation or the SOC code, and then the number of postings. There's one. And the number of postings within that region. So I wanted to make sure you guys had samples. All right, so this is what it looks like, and again, you'll see the total number of postings. This can help you to not only counsel a student to find out if an occupation they're interested is in high demand in your area, but it allows you to look in other areas as well, so students can find out where in Texas the jobs are in demand for what they're interested in. All right. Now, what if your student knows what they want to do, but they just can't really find information on a specific job title they're looking at? Or what if you have a student that has a particular skill or talent, but they're not exactly sure how to turn that into a job? I like to help them by using AutoCoder. Let me click on here because this is a link. So AutoCoder is kind of cool. I had a counselor who once told me in a presentation like this. She said, well, I had a student who came to me and he had a report that he had to do, and he was supposed to research cartoonists, and he couldn't find cartoonists printed anywhere. So I told her, take him to AutoCoder. He can type in cartoonist, and it's going to ask him, are you talking about a fine arts, or like an artist, an artisan who's a fine artist, or multimedia? He's like, oh, multimedia sounds kind of cool. When he clicks on multimedia, it gives him the description of that job title, but then also all these other lay titles, other occupational titles that, that line up with cartoonists. So these are people who may be doing drawing, for example, or any kind of three-dimensional art design. Lots of really good stuff in there. I also like to use this when I have students who say, I want to be a nurse. Maybe they're not sure what kind of nurse they want to be. So I can take them to the list of registered nurses, and I say, well, you know, if you want to be a nurse, a registered nurse, you can do acute care, burn centers, you can do adult nursing practitioners, you can be a clinical nurse, a consultating nurse. You can take them through all the different options that they have, so it helps them kind of dig deeper into their occupational interests. I'm going to kind of rush along here because I know we're short on time. Oops. Next. Okay. If your student has decided on a career, they just need to have more information, give them pointed and specific, you can give them pointed and specific information, or let them search on their own by going to Texas Cares. I'm going to show you two things in Texas Cares, if I can get to it real quick, that students particularly like. Here we go. Now, in Texas Cares, there are many ways that you can research information. I'm just going to go into World of Work and look up the actual occupation by title. And I'm just looking at welders, for example. When you look up welders, it'll give you all kinds of options. You get the job description, any kind of significant points, if there are significant points that they need to know, like training ranges from a couple of weeks to a year and a half. You need industry licensing in order to do this. But you can look specifically at training, workforce values, all kinds of stuff. And at the end, there's labor market information. So it'll show them wages that they can potentially earn, number of job openings in a year. But one thing that teachers really like is when I show them at the bottom, regional info on the job. When you click on that, you're going to get a map, and it's going to give you the state statistics. But if you have a student who's like, I think I might move to Wichita Falls, you can click in the Wichita Falls area and say, well, there's 15 total job openings for welders every year in the Wichita Falls area. But if you move out to the Gulf Coast area, look at that, 870 job openings every year for welders. So you can show them which areas are viable for occupations that they're interested in. Reality check, anyone here familiar with reality check? Okay, yes. Everybody loves reality check, especially students who are money motivated. You know, they can play the game and the game will tell them the annual salary they need to earn to live the specific lifestyle they've identified they want to live. And then they get to see a list of occupations that will pay them that salary or higher, and each of those occupations in the list is an active URL link, and they can get the same kinds of labor market information they can get in CARES. Something that's new in Reality Check, however, is they can now also see under education requirements the House Bill 5 endorsement that their occupation of interest is most likely to fall under. Thank you, Dale, for your help with that and the TEA. Yeah. We do have a career hotline. And the hotline, again, Doyle told you a little bit about it. Students can call. It's free. They just give us a name, address, 3 occupations they're interested in. We do the research for them and send them in-depth career profiles. You can also have anyone in academics, not just counselors, call us to get a free counselor packet that includes 1 free copy of all of our resources. And so all the things that I think our resources can do is help you and students research your careers of interest, match one job to multiple job titles, discover specific regional needs, and get projection info for one particular job or different industries. And again, we can provide them with any kind of industry or career profile or counselor packets. And most of all, it'll help them make better or well-informed decisions about their career interests. But we know the reality for counselors, time is short. But there's a deep need for this to happen. So what I've seen a lot of districts do that is working rather well for them is they're partnering with their CTE people, staff and faculty, because those guys have much longer time that they can spend with each student to talk specifically about career interest. Your 7th and 8th grade Exploring Careers teachers can help them to do this. And then there's us at the TWC. We can travel to different schools and provide training or demos on our tools, and again, your local workforce solution offices. One last thing that I want to say, because I know I'm short on time, is at the very back of our product, the product side of your folder, you're going to see something called Beyond High School. This is a brand new publication. I would say hot off the presses, but it's not even off the presses yet. So we've just printed them up on PDF format so that you could see them. But this is a publication that can take parents and students through the college selection process, but all the way down to the bare bones. I thought about what my college students were asking me when they came into my advising room. Many of them didn't understand the difference between a community college and a career school and a four-year university, and they didn't understand about accreditation and whether or not credits are going to transfer depending on where they attended. So we wrote this book in order to educate them on that, on those kinds of things, but then also just to help them at the very end go step by step through specific criteria to help them find the right match for them. When it's printed, it will be this size. Currently, you have the PDF that's this big. But most of the publications that we have online are also available as PDF. So whether your school has money for just making copies or money for getting product, I think our most expensive product is $2. You can either order them from us or print them off at your leisure. I know that I talked a lot. I gave a lot of information. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the PDF of Beyond High School is currently available right now. Let me just ask real quick, are there any questions? No questions? There's an incentive if you ask a question. I'm just going to throw that out there. Carol, do you have an answer for that?
That's the presentation.
The presentations, where will they be posted? Any other questions? Okay, what Jane is walking over there and handing this lovely young lady who asked a question, our career tips, our top 10 career tips, she's now getting a classroom set of posters that match the information in here. Any other questions? We got one more set. Okay, thank you.
No more questions? Do you have another door prize?
Yeah, we do have another door prize. I can leave it with you, Dale.
Well, thank you very much, Lori.